Cool.
Okay,
thanks so much,
go
Vinny.
ahead.
Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Happy, what is it, Wednesday? Who even knows anymore? Time is just not real, but here we are. We're at ELCC. We've been enjoying our time here so far. I hope you guys have as well. We got a pretty small group, so hey, I think we should introduce ourselves. Just unmute as I call on you. I'm Seth. I work for Banyan Global Learning along with teacher Courtney here. We offer dynamic virtual programs in world culture, SEL, and digital citizenship, and especially at the intersection of all three of those things. We believe that they work together to increase global empathy and kindness. We are all about our mission here at BGL. Courtney, who are you?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Courtney Dayhuff. Happy to be here with you. I've been working with Banyan Global Learning for, this is my 9th year. I work with a school that we partner with in Taipei, Taiwan, and then do a lot of our online virtual programming, which we'll tell you a little bit more about. But it's a really exciting program, especially right now with a lot of people learning from home and doing hybrid models. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have the position I have.
Awesome, thanks so much. And I'm just gonna ask if people could I'm gonna call on people to unmute their mic and just be like, hey, I'm this person from this place and here's my deal and why I came here. So Daphne, I hope it's okay if I put you on the spot. Daphne, who are you? Where are you from?
Sure, I'm Daphne Zhen. Can you hear me right?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Okay, I'm from Idaho State University. I'm an instructional designer here. And I work with faculty for professional development. And also Taipei, Taiwan is my hometown.
What? Taipei,
Oh,
Taiwan?
Yes.
No, sorry.
Formulating in Taipei for 30 years.
Sorry, I got very excited because we work with Zhaixing in Taipei. I'm not sure if you've heard of that school, but that's our main client school in Taiwan. I've been to Taiwan about 60 times, but who's counting? Courtney taught over there for a year, so we love Taipei. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Love to hear that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yuko, who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here?
Hi, I'm originally from Japan, but I am currently a graduate student in Massachusetts. And I was interested by reading the session description of your session, and I was hoping that I could learn, because you were saying something like incorporate social, emotional, and cultural goals. So I was interested in that aspect because I'm teaching Japanese in Massachusetts.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Thanks so much for being here. Amanda, you could take a moment to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm a teacher of anthropology at Red Rocks Community College and CCC Online in Colorado. And I'm presenting at 3 and also learning all the stuff today. Thanks.
Awesome. What's the name of your session at 3?
Trauma-informed teaching, humanizing the classroom.
Ooh, love it. I'll be there.
I hope so. Thanks.
Jill, take a moment, please.
Hi, I'm Jill Giacomini. I'm an instructional designer for the University of Colorado. I work with faculty to develop online courses. And I know Amanda Christopher. So hi, Amanda. Good to see you.
Hi, Jill.
And I'm here particularly because I'm interested in learning about integrating social emotional learning in online courses. I want to hear what you've done and hopefully maybe get some ideas for myself.
Awesome. Wonderful. Christy. Christy, can you hear me? I think we'll go on to Bahram.
Hi, this is Bahram Rafai. I'm at the Linfield, the University in McMillan, Oregon. I'm part of the library. I run 2 departments. One of them is in charge of classroom technology. So just here to learn. Thanks.
Awesome. Did you say McMinnville?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Just down the road. I'm in Portland. Courtney used to live here. And she left. Thanks so much. Elena.
Hi, I'm Alina Badish, and I am from College of Southern Nevada. I run 5 of our student tutoring departments, so I'm very interested.
Ooh, awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to introduce yourselves. We're going to have a lot of like interaction and participation today. So I think it's really important that we understood who else was in the room and kind of build a little bit of community by hearing each other's voices. So thanks so much for doing that and for being open and being here today. So what are we talking about today? Courtney, what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about a few different things, and actually a lot of what you guys talked about are things that we're going to touch on. And just like Seth said, it's nice we can kind of hone things towards the direction of what is best to serve you. We've been doing this and been going through this growth process over the course of the past 12 years, but then really kind of honing in the past year, year and a half. So we are going to talk about SEL. We're going to talk about globalizing your classroom and how all this looks. We'll show you some examples of student work and just kind of tell you about our journey that we've been on.
Who's it for? It's for you. And this is who we are. If you guys could just like, I don't know, take a screenshot or something. I would love to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. If I could get a follow on Twitter, that'd be dope. I love LinkedIn. It took me a while to come around. I'm a fairly recent convert, but it's been an absolutely vibrant resource for me. So if you guys could connect with me there, that would be awesome.
And Seth, I'm seeing a black screen. I'm not sure if everyone else is. Maybe try to reshare again.
No, I even tested it.
Yeah,
what about now?
There we go.
Now we're good.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Now take a screenshot. You know, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much, Courtney. So what we're going to go over today, we're going to identify ways in which your assessment practices can reflect your mission, that you can connect your classroom to the outside world, and consider what existing content you could revise to better align with your mission. Our mission, SEL, is a big part of that. So we're going to be talking about how we made all that happen. What is our mission, Courtney?
Oh goodness. So as you can see on the screen, we deliver this live virtual programming. So we have actual classrooms that are distance learning classrooms, but then we also provide these virtual programs that aren't just for one specific class, but open across the board. We connect our learners to undiscovered places, new people, and fresh ideas. I can't emphasize enough how important that is for learners, especially right now with everything that's going on. We engage them with meaningful educational experiences. So I love this, that we practice authenticity, social emotional fluency, and cultural empathy to become responsible and responsive global citizens.
Yeah, and we're going to show you one example, one project-based example of how we did that in our classroom in Taipei. So we're talking about this, teaching SEL proficient global citizens. We first got into SEL when the pandemic hit. Basically, the work that we'd been doing was with global culture. And I have a daughter who's here at home with me now. She's 8. And I saw the way that she just kind of crashed and burned in the first few weeks of the pandemic. It became very clear to me very quickly the extent to which she needed social and emotional support. And we had all this expertise in delivering virtual programs. The local school district here did not have the resources to make stuff available very quickly. So we just jumped in and started doing this stuff, offering it for free to the community. And luckily, I happen to have an uncle who's an expert in SEL. He consulted with us the whole time. It turned out to be something that was really work of the heart and really important. And we were good at it. We were able to create these really safe spaces for the kids. I'm going to show you a video clip of one of these. That's my 8-year-old daughter. She was my co-host for a lot of this. And it was awesome. This is just about a minute long. So this is delivered to students at home in like April of last year.
Vita, is it like always super fun staying at home with me, or how do you feel about it?
I actually kind of like it.
Okay, well, that's because I'm a great teacher. So thank you. This is a chart that I use to practice my superpower of knowing what my feelings are. The green zone
is the like balance zone.
Yeah.
It's never too out of control. You can like feel sad and also yellow and mad, but you're still in the green zone.
Any way you feel, it's
Whatever
okay.
you're feeling, it's okay. But you can start
Sometimes
to
you want to
create
get out, scream,
nice.
shout, and play.
Wow, yeah, she's working on her
science fans that like
Sometimes you just
see these kind
rather
of
be
look like almost
on your own,
Millipedes, we found
off your phone,
And we'd like to explore
and all
and
alone.
like go through the forest a little.
And that's okay too. Thank you very much, everybody.
what's your grammar joke?
What's the best color in the world?
Whoa, what is the best color in the entire world?
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole. Wow. That one's for you high schoolers out there who are watching the show.
So that gives you a little taste of our approach to social and emotional learning taught over video conferencing to students at home in April of last year. We had a little variety show that we were doing. This was our early experimental phase before we started weaving it into our global culture curriculum. But you saw like the zones of regulation on there and some other things. And really, this was all about building community. And that's
is it like always super fun staying at home with me? Or is...
I want to go to the, okay, there we go. So what we'd like to do right now is to continue to build some people who are in the room right now. And there is a link that teacher Courtney is putting into the chat. If you guys could go to the chat, click on the link, there's a Jamboard. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to talk about identity, okay? There are many words that you can use to describe your identity. You might talk about your race, your gender, where you're from. Courtney, what are some of the words that you might use to describe your identity?
I'm a Montanan originally, so I'm definitely love being outdoors. My family roots come from Native American, so that's a really important part to me. That's part of my identity. My community with my job has become my identity, especially during these crazy times. So those are just a couple of pieces that are really important to me in my life. I did want to add, if you haven't used Jamboard before, very easy to use, very similar to all other Google platforms. Really great place for kids to collaborate. I was working with our 8th graders for the past couple of weeks, and they were working with Jamboard, and it is just a nice alternative to some of the technology that you might be using. We always try to bring something new and fresh to the kids to keep them interested and engaged. This is just another thing that you can use. So take your time and please fill us in on your identity. Seth, what about your identity?
So I'm filling out my sticky note right now, and we're gonna be quiet for a second and give people the opportunity to do that. I'm gonna add mine on the Jamboard. Awesome to see these popping in here. Let's take a look at what some of the other people have written. Jokester. Melissa, I love it. Me too. Melissa, what do you think of our hyperbole joke? My daughter thought of that one on her own. I was floored. One of the things that's really cool about doing this exercise is that if we were in a room with each other right now, we would not necessarily know all of these things about each other. And when we're creating community, we're always looking for things that we have in common with other people. So even in just this little exercise of putting some sticky notes into a virtual platform, we know some things about the people in the room. Like I could make a 40-something club, a community of 40-somethingers, a community of teachers, of learners. We are able to create community through this online platform in a way that wouldn't even really necessarily be possible in person, which is something that I really love. I love seeing how technology can change the game in terms of how we connect to each other. For example, we are all in very different spaces right now and are able to connect to each other through this conference, which is such a blessing of the technology. This is great. Love this.
I love this too, because when you're doing this with students or with adults, it gives people an opportunity to take a second and reflect, and it isn't on the spot right away. People tend to like to have the time to reflect intrinsically and then go out and write it there. And I think that that's an important thing for students, especially if you're working with ESL students. It gives them that moment of thought, which is really important.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Courtney, do you want to take the next section here?
Sure. Yeah, so this has kind of been my new calling over the past few months, is we've been working with these zones of regulation. And as Seth said, his uncle is an expert when it comes to this content. So it's been really a wonderful journey for me personally to dive into these zones of regulation and really this social emotional learning for myself personally, for my own relationships, my professional relationships, but then sharing it with students. It's been really wonderful to share it with students that I've worked with for a long time and I know very well, but also entering classrooms where there is a new group of kids and watching them open up and take down their walls as they start to understand how important this work is. So the zones of regulation, very simple, these 4 squares. Easier to see when you break it down like this, which is also very kid friendly, which is nice, is broken down into blue, green, yellow, and red. As you heard from the video that Seth played, any way you feel is okay. And that's something that we really like to reiterate with the kids over and over again, is that it's okay if you're going through these different zones. But what's important is recognizing that you go through the zones. And a superpower you have is recognizing them, but also knowing how to get from one zone to the next zone, because we try to shoot for being in the green zone. That is the place where you make the best decisions. And that's kind of what we try to impart on the students is any way you feel is a good thing because you're feeling it and you're going through those emotions. But when it is time to make those solid decisions that protect you and keep you safe and others safe, that's when we try to shoot for the green zone. So all of you right now are going through a superhero training process as you start to figure out what your superhero powers are. So Seth and I like to do this small exercise where when I am in a zone that I'm not comfortable in, what do I do to move to that green zone where I can make the best decisions? And so Seth, for you, what is one of your superhero powers that takes you from one zone to the next?
You know, it's, I was just thinking about one that I developed recently, which was breath. And I know it's simple and like people talk about it all the time. For some reason, it didn't get driven home for me until recently. We practiced like a 6-4-8 breathing exercise where you breathe in for 6 counts, hold it for 4, breathe out for 8. Something that's been really helpful for me when I honestly get angry at my kids. That's like the biggest thing that I need to work on in terms of regulating my emotions. I get really triggered sometimes when I'm tired and am trying to be a good parent, but also you know, I'm human, right? So breathing is a really important thing for me. Another thing I put into the chat here, because my daughter immediately called out the fact that we had these 4 zones, and she was like, well, you know, sometimes I feel like all of the zones at once, and that's the rainbow zone. And there's actually a like an official model for that, the Plutchik wheel, where you can see a lot more complex emotions that are not just these 4 zones. So I did put that link in the chat.
Yeah, wonderful. And I love that breathing. It's funny, you'll hear students say things like, I take deep breaths, I will meditate. It's pretty impressive to have 3rd graders throwing those things at you. But I kind of want to hear from you guys in the chat. What is one of your superhero powers? Meaning, what do you do to get from one zone to the next? Seth mentioned breathing. For me, I love to be outside, so I'll take my dog for a walk, or I will go out and get some exercise, go for a run, or do some yoga here at home. Those are things that help me. So in the chat, what do you do to move from one zone to the next? Jill gets outside. Yep.
Yeah,
Very
and this
important.
exercise of like understanding your own social emotional intelligence. It's not just something that we're doing to like model the process that we might go through with students, which is true. This is part of what we're doing here. Barham walking, oh, so good. Underrated activity. But in addition to modeling what we might do with students, we are all about bringing consciousness to your own life as a way to improve your ability to facilitate learning for your learners. So when you do things, when you bring consciousness to the way that you operate as a human and your own social and emotional intelligence, it informs your ability to facilitate learning for your learners. Yeah, mantras, breathing, taking a walk, going outside, tapping, stretching, breathing. These are all fantastic things. Basketball used to be one for me, and then I got old. My body does not allow it anymore.
So we want to know exactly what zone you're in as well. Just this is another exercise that we do with the kids, but again, it's really nice to model for the kids that you have this vulnerability and that you too go from zone to zone and you can feel all these different feels. And it's also nice to include the students in this process with you. So this is Mentimeter. I'm not sure if you're familiar. You can either scan the code or you can go to menti.com. And the code is up there on the screen for you. And this is what zone are you in and what is the feeling that goes with it. And the zones, again, I can show you that slide, which are the yellow, red, green, and blue. Pretty self-explanatory. Blue, you're feeling sad, you're feeling tired, you're feeling a little bit low. Red, there's a lot of anger and rage, just kind of heightened anxiousness, which also goes into the yellow zone as well. You're feeling anxious, you're feeling like you want to move, a little jittery. And then green is just you're feeling very calm and at peace and feeling good. So as
Courtney,
you guys are doing.
Oh, sorry, I entered some into the Mentimeter. It said it's waiting for the presenter to show the next slide.
I have.
There we go.
We're seeing a few. We have a couple of people in here right now. We have 2 people. So I'll go back to this slide just to make sure you guys can get there. And you also can see the code at the top of this slide.
It's kind of ironic to see yellow zone written in blue and green written in yellow.
Yeah.
Come on, Mentimeter. Get it together.
This is in the form of a word cloud. And as you go through the word cloud, words that come up more often get bigger. So yeah, it's a little counterintuitive when you're seeing green and it's in red, but take that out of the equation. Excited, nervous, interested, these are all really great.
Nice. I love the way the word clouds animate as more selections come in.
And this is great to do with kids, for them to see it and to visualize it, and also to participate in new and exciting ways via technology. Mentimeter is very easy to use. You don't have to have an account if you're a student. You can just put in the code or scan the QR code and get right in. A nice way for kids' voices to be heard when you can't actually hear them, especially if they're at home.
For sure. And we'd like to hear from you guys too. What are some ways that you guys develop community with your learners. We've been showing you a couple of ways here of just, that the exercise of identifying identity traits and then the commonalities between them. This little SEL check-in of how people are doing. That would be another way to develop community. Just in the chat, what are some ways that you guys do that? Or if it's something you'd like to elaborate on, we'd like to invite people to unmute their mic and share with us some of their ideas around this.
Or if there's any questions about what you just heard, because it is kind of a lot of information. And we have been working with a variety of different students and age levels. So it may seem a little young at times, but we have junior high students, we have high school students that are still going through this process as well. And it's all just based on the way that you frame the information for the students.
So in the meantime, we can share with you guys kind of our approach with, there we go, got some. Oh, cool. That's a helpful link. Thank you, Sarah. A random check-in generator. That's a hit in her class.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Amanda is talking about on the first day of class, asking students to share what things help them feel more included and create community. That's awesome. There's been so much focus on this recently, which is, I think, so good. One of those positive effects of the pandemic is kind of the destigmatization of discussing mental health, I think. So Courtney, if you could go to the next slide. So for students in Asia, we saw how SEL is critical for global culture. So previous to the pandemic, we weren't really talking about SEL all that much within the context of global culture. And we realized that it really is kind of like, we were kind of just focusing on like exchange, right? So it's like, hey, here's this, hey, here's this, what can we learn about each other? And there is, in that exposure, there is some value for sure. But SEL comes in when we talk about actually creating a sense of community, a sense of global community, because the concepts behind building a local community and behind building a global community are the same thing, right? You're talking about empathy, you're talking about listening skills, understanding, and in this way, we understood suddenly how critical the SEL piece was for teaching global culture. We were able to have harder conversations about global culture when we were giving students the opportunity to, and the vocabulary to talk about feelings and some of these like difficult emotions that come up when, for example, values come into things, right? Part of culture is the values of a culture. What happens when the values of your culture and the values of the culture that you're learning about don't necessarily mix, right? How do you approach that situation when you've been given a backbone of SEL and DEI work? You're able to have those differences of opinion while continuing to maintain respect. And we have an example of a unit that we've done that Courtney's going to take you through, where we incorporated a lot of SEL principles into this project-based unit. It's something that also represents a shift for us. And we're going to tell you a little bit in the end about like the process that we went through to make sure that our curriculum was aligned to our mission. But it's a little wonky. And so we lead with the good stuff, which is the actual end result, the unit. So Courtney's going to take you through that now.
Sure. So, let me make sure that is sharing. Can you see my screen, Seth?
I'm seeing the sessions.
That's what I was worried about. Bear with me for one moment. All right. Cool. So basically, technology is allowing us to connect globally. And I think this slide is interesting because we are in danger of perceiving the other as an outsider if we don't fully understand where they're coming from and the community there. So one thing that we wanted to talk about is a way that we get the class started with this SEL and start to build that community. And this is very popular among classes. I know a lot of teachers that have used the same lesson plan, but it's from Where I'm From poems. And it's used across the board. It's very, very popular. So I'll just let you listen to this and then I'll explain a little bit of where it comes from.
And this is my Where I'm From poem. I'm from my mom's hugs, from my dad's care and her love. I'm from the shining stars and the bright moon hanging on the sky. It's also a clear and blue sky on a stunning day. I'm from the forest and a mountain full of animals. I'm from a clear river in the sun, from the wind and joy and sadness. I'm from movies that have never been shot and books that have never been written. From movies and novels, I'm from passion, my hobbies, and my destiny. From the beginning, I'm from myself. Thank you.
So this is a Where I'm From poem that we do at the beginning of the school year with students. This is a 7th grader at Saiching in Taiwan. And it basically is based on a poem by George Ella Lyons that talks about where you come from. And the person that you are and the person that you bring to the classroom community is based on all of your experiences prior to being there. So before the kids jump into any curriculum or anything, they get a chance to express who they are as an individual. So here's a couple of other examples. We had the kids record them, and then we also had them do a written version. We put these into a digital book to be shared with parents and with the students on the class website. But really, really great opportunities for the kids to share who they are. Especially these kids are ESL students, so this is a challenge for them to start to talk about where they come from and include playing with the English language and really challenging themselves to dig deeper and expose different parts of themselves. Some really great things here. They talk about cultural things. So there's a cultural identity there, talking about their family. Beautiful things like I'm from the small, crowded but beautiful Taiwan, busy Taipei historical school. Really wonderful opportunity to share who they are, touching on SEL. So we did want to see if you guys would like to participate in this on the Mentimeter. Now, we don't want you to write a whole page poem, but this is just an opportunity for us to develop a little bit more of who we are as a community here today. And so the way that these poems are framed is I am from. So you're talking about these different things of where you're from. So this is the same Mentimeter that we used in the last one, and I'll go to the next slide. So this was our last. And then here is where you can add your Where I'm From poem. Again, here's the information here. And I wanted to tell you just a couple of things to think about. When we're doing this with the kids, we talk about ways for them to show parts of themselves in a creative way. So not like, I am from my mom and dad, but digging a little deeper and thinking about small things that you remember about your parents, maybe things that they used to say to you, or family sayings that only you guys knew, or music you listened to, or a certain food dish that was prepared, and putting it and framing it in a way that is a little bit different. So from the actual poem itself, from George Ella Lyons, just the first couple of lines were, I am from clothespins, from Clorox, and carbon tetrachloride. I'm from the dirt under the back porch, black, glistening, it tasted like beets. I'm from the forsythia bush, the Dutch elm, whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. So talking about these memories and these small pieces of what make you who you are. And here are a couple of other examples as well. This is a lot of text, but if you want to go through important family events, family memories, music, something someone says that opens up a memory for you, a significant object. And again, this can be just a couple of thoughts that you jot down, but really kind of opening up that space of vulnerability and recognizing the need for social emotional connection and appreciation and value from the people in your classroom community or your learning community. And I can go back here if you guys need another moment, and then I'll just stop talking for a minute and take a little bit of time to reflect. And we'll give you guys just another moment or two.
Oh, these are wonderful.
And these are wonderful too, as Seth said, to hear the students present them for their class. So we have them present in small groups or for the whole class, or we do small recordings that the kids can submit. It really does validate their place in the classroom. And even here, like reading these words makes me feel better. It's very nice to see people be vulnerable and to show the beauty and those raw pieces of what make them who they are. So thank you for sharing. Love it.
And so Courtney, these are the types of exercises that we were doing early in the year, which is sort of like straight SEL, right? And it was a precursor to the work that we were doing that led to, or that supported the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I hope is something that you guys have heard about. And if you've not, please do check these out. They are, you know, if you're going to come up with a list of 16 things that the human race needs to do to make the world a better place, I would challenge you to find a better list. This is a well thought out, really wonderful list of goals for the species. And so we support those in our junior high curriculum. And this Bridges project that we did is a wonderful example of how we were able to incorporate some SEL, global citizenship, digital citizenship into one project-based unit.
Yeah, so we just did this with our 8th grade students in the fall. And in the past, we had done a similar bridge project. In the past, it was a neat bridge building competition where the kids built bridges out of popsicle sticks, and then they tested to see how much weight it could hold. And it developed into something so different when we took into account the Sustainable Development Goals and really found ways for the students to make a difference and to understand the world around them better and to think globally. And it's that concept that always is kind of woven through our curriculum, which is to think local or think global, act local to make a difference in your local community. So what we did to begin is we revamped our curriculum. So we provide our curriculum for our students in our school in Taiwan. And so we made it more geared towards exactly what the content that the kids were going to be diving into. So for example, in Panama, we're talking about the infrastructure that is needed to help communities and to connect communities to the vital resources that they need: schools, medicine, markets, those type of things. So you can see here just a little bit from our curriculum. And then we reached out and found this really extraordinary group called Bridges to Prosperity. And Bridges to Prosperity is a global organization that works around the world. They have people working in Nicaragua, in Panama, in Africa, and they continue to expand. And they build bridges, physical bridges, to connect these different communities and to connect these people with the resources that they need. So we really dove into what Bridges to Prosperity is all about. We actually had the students meet with an engineer that is working in Rwanda, and they got to ask questions. We did a live Q&A session. We also let them explore the website and explore all the different pieces that go into this project. You can see here the students eventually designed and built a bridge. We used Tinkercad for the design process on their iPads, which is a really great program if you're not familiar, Tinkercad. And it's a web-based program. And then the kids physically built their bridges. Many of them used sustainable materials, brought in things, did a lot of upcycling. So you can see some of their work here. They did lots of reflection, lots of photographs. We also had them present their bridges for a panel of teachers, and they had to put together a huge presentation. And then they also did a presentation for people from Bridges to Prosperity, so from representatives to Bridges to Prosperity. We also did a live field trip, which is something that we do with our live programming. And I just wanted to show you one of these videos so you can get an idea of what these look like. So this is when the students went, and we had Seth in Portland, Oregon, which is known as Bridgetown. And so the kids got to experience what Bridgetown is like and talk about the bridges there, but really talk about the different purposes of bridges. Bridges to Prosperity has a very unique purpose as opposed to some of the bridges that you find in Portland, Oregon. And these live field trips are a really popular part of what we do. So I'll let you see here.
Good morning, teacher Seth, and teacher Courtney, and teacher Wendy.
Good morning, everyone. And we've been studying bridges. You guys have been learning about Bridges to Prosperity, or B2P. And we're going to have a different perspective today on bridges, meaning we're going to have a different view on what the purpose of bridges are and how they connect community. Good. So this is important because you are designing bridges that are going to be somewhere in Taiwan, right? But you're learning about bridges in Rwanda and bridges in Panama, and now you're going to be learning about bridges in Portland, Oregon. So you are connecting things that are close to you because of Taiwan with issues all over the world. That makes you global citizens. That also makes you totally awesome people.
Thank you so much, Teacher Courtney. I'm now at the Burnside Bridge. Everyone say Burnside. So if the river separates east and west and Burnside separates north and south, that makes this bridge, and specifically this part of the bridge, the very center of the city. And that is why this summer, when we had big protests to support Black lives, the protesters decided to walk in a huge group of thousands of people over this bridge and lay down. They laid down in the middle of the bridge to pay their respects to the people who have been killed by police violence and to fight for equal rights for all Americans.
So that's just an example of one of the other elements that we throw in there. So you can see all these different pieces. The kids were answering questions and doing comparisons. Basically, we just wanted to show you how you can bring in these sustainable development goals and make it a project-based, very rich curriculum that also touches on those needs of human needs and those, honestly, those social emotional components into the classroom, and making sure that the kids feel like they can communicate and be vulnerable on this content that really, really matters.
Yeah, and since we only have a few minutes left, I guess I wanted to tell you like a quick story of how we got here. And basically, around like 3 years ago, we were asked the question. We wanted to really like tighten up our assessment practices, and the person that we hired to help us with that, an educational consultant, she was like, "Well, what do you guys want to assess?" And our answer for that question was extremely insufficient. We had a hard time doing it, and that was too bad. We basically had this program that we started in 2008 when I was just a spring chicken, and it was something where we had a lot of freedom to innovate, and we basically just tried stuff, and the stuff that went well, we stuck with it. So we had a collection of really popular units, but we didn't necessarily have a really clear connection between all of them, a clear progress from one unit to the next. So when we were trying to answer the questions of what to assess, we couldn't really do it. And so what this person, this consultant encouraged us to do was to go all the way back to the source. What is our mission? And so we went back to our mission and we revised our thinking around it. Once we were comfortable with what we had there, which was what we shared with you earlier today, we essentially went through the exercise of splitting our mission into smaller and smaller pieces until they were measurable lesson objectives. So we have these sort of top level, which is our expected student learning results, these ESLers. Each ESLer, we have 3 ESLers, one for culture, one for language, one for technology. Each of those got broken up into 5 things. These 5 things got broken up into like 30 things. Those 30 things got broken up into 5 things each. And then we finally had like lesson objectives. We consulted with all of these existing standards and then customized them for our particular audience in Taiwan. Oxfam's great for global citizenship. Castle's great for SEL. And then what we ended up with was a bunch of lesson objectives that we could then fit to our previous curriculum in a way where we were revising stuff to make it so much more meaningful than it was. So the, you saw that with the bridges project. It was this thing where they just built bridges and like, oh, neat, bridges, fun, physics, cool. And it became this thing that's so multimodal, using all of these skills across the spectrum, really requiring that they, practice empathy for the people for whom they proposed they would build the bridge, to really sort of feel their needs and understand them, and then build the whole project around that empathy. Which was just so awesome. The kids did some amazing work, and this work that we did to like get to this point was just stupidly intense. It was like years of work, but it also kind of changed my perception on how to solve a problem. I used to, as a teacher, think of just a series of fires that you needed to put out. Whereas this was a problem that we took several years to solve, and it showed me the benefits that you can draw from solving problems in that way when you think bigger and have these bigger goals. So we are Banyan Global Learning. If you take a screenshot again, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm active there. I talk about lots of stuff. Yeah, we're just really appreciative that you came to our session today. Thanks so much to everyone for participating. We hope that you guys got something out of it. Did you get anything out of it? We've got 1 minute. Would anybody like to give us some feedback? We love feedback.
Hey, I just had a question from Anna. Yeah. She sent me a message if you guys would be able to share your slides.
Yes, of course. How do we do that? Just put the link in the chat.
Yeah, you can do that. And I know if you send them to the conference committee, I could also get them to them too, and then we can get them there and they can be posted. But if you put them in the chat here, yeah, everyone can get them.
Cool. I just put them in the chat. I will make sure I adjust the settings there to make sure that everybody can get in there. If you have any questions about it, let me know. And if you're interested in any virtual programs, send us a message. We've got lots of great stuff. But ultimately, we hope that everyone can take a little something out of this, bring some consciousness to their teaching, and figure out ways to support learners as they develop their social and emotional health and their global culture and citizenship. Takes a village, so let's get our worldwide village together and teach empathy and create kindness. Here we go, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for your time.
All right.
Very much.
Thanks, Seth and Courtney.
Yeah.